Good morning. Stanley Maposa is my name. Welcome to this session, Leadership Lessons with Dr. Stanley Maposa. These leadership lessons started as a result of my book entitled Leadership in Principle and in Practice that I wrote during the COVID-19 pandemic, and I launched in June 2020, together with 3 other books that I wrote. I am currently on episode number 4 of season number 2, where we will be discussing quite a number of issues around leadership. And this morning specifically I'm discussing what is called Watch the Walk, Never Mind the Talk. That's the title of the discussion this morning. Watch the walk, never mind the talk. I would start off by saying every organization, whether it's big or small, and whatever type of organization it is, it has a written set of values and principles that people follow. And there are different names that people give to these values and these written principles. We'll see that later as we go on. Whether it's a government organization or it's a political party or it's a church or it's an NGO or a civil society organization, there's always some set of values that are written, and everybody's supposed to be following those set of values. And they are written so that people will follow them, and they also outline what the organization believes and where they see themselves now and where they want the people to be next. And these are very, very good documents that are written down. Some of them are called Code of Conduct, some of them are called manifestos, some of them are called core values, some of them are called Constitution, and they explicitly define what the organization should behave like, what the organization should do. And a lot of people spend of their time debating these documents, defining them, and also presenting them to themselves and also to those that are outside the organization. Some of them, when you go to the website, you find what the organization is defining itself and setting itself apart from others through these documents and through these written up messages, which I think they are very good. I very, very much like them, and they are very, very good, and I believe each and every organization must have them so that we are able to read what you define yourself as. And the more explicit these documents are, the greater the expectations for the people within the organization and outside to look at them and to read them and to behave according to what the words are saying. And my major problem is here that we spend a lot of our time in this talk that is written, but we don't spend a lot of time in the walk that is associated with what is written in the talk. The talk is good, but we want to see the walk. We want to see the practice. We want to see the implementation. We want to see the practice that is associated to the documents that we write. I'm told that South Africa is one of the countries where we have got a lot of good documents. Starting from the constitution of the country, it's a good, laudable document that was written before this country got the independence, and when you read it, it's defined as one of the best constitutions in the world. When you also come to the policies of the country, whether they are policies around gender, policies around workplace issues, and so forth, a lot of policies that are written down for this country are excellent policies. And many other countries would like to have policies that South Africa has. But where is the challenge? The challenge is on the implementation. The challenge is on the walk and not on the talk. And I would like us to discuss this today and find out why are we hanging these beautiful documents on our walls, on our offices, but we are not practicing them. Why is it that people ignore these wonderful documents that their organizations have? Constitutions that were written down, were debated, were discussed, but people are not following these constitutions. For example, some organizations even write constitutions and present them to the Department of Social Development when they register the organization, but down the line, this constitution is not followed. Even the leaders that wrote it, they don't follow it. They don't practice it. What is the constitution saying about money matters? What is the constitution saying about disciplinary measures? What does the constitution say about leaders? When do leaders get to be elected? The constitution says after 5 years we'll change leaders. But we have a leader that has been there for 20 years. We have a leader that has been there for 30 years. Why are we not following the constitution? Why are we not following the documents that we wrote ourselves? And we said we are going to be following this, and this document is the one that will be separating our organization from another organization, but we ignore them. Why is there so much skepticism and even cynicism about some of this documentation? Why is there so much difference in the interpretation of this document? It's one document written by the same organization, but there are 500 interpretations of the same document. Why do we work on a strategic plan? Last week I was talking about strategic thinking and strategic planning. Why do we work on a strategic plan following a strategic thinking session? And why do we put on a balanced scorecard? But then we put those documents in our shelves, in our offices, and we do nothing about them. Why is it that we are good on writing and talking, but we are not good in implementation and walking the talk? I've got the answer that I want to propose, and the answer is accountability. The answer is something called accountability or lack of accountability. Let's talk about accountability and what animal is accountability. By definition, accountability is a disciplined practice of confronting behavior and choices that are not consistent with the statements of the ideal. Can I repeat that definition? It is a disciplined practice of confronting the behavior and the choices that are not consistent with the written statement of the ideal. What that simply means that here is the statement of the ideal. Here is the constitution. Here is the code of conduct. Here are the core values of the organization. So if anyone is not consistent with these, we confront them. We confront their behavior. We confront their choices of not following this particular document. And then we ask them why they are not. And when we do that, we are practicing accountability. Secondly, accountability is addressing performance that falls short of the metrics that matter. What are the things that matter in your document? What are the things that matter in your constitution? What are the things that matter in your code of conduct? And what is the performance of your team? What is the performance of your followers? What is the performance of other leaders or yourself as a leader? And if that is not conforming, accountability says we are addressing that lack of performance. We are addressing that shortfall of performance versus the metrics of what matters in our organization. Let me continue with the definition. Accountability is decisions on how to spend money and time in consistency with the strategic intent. So accountability is looking at how much time are we spending on organizational matters and how much money are we spending on organizational matters versus spending it on ourselves? Many organizations that have been created have fallen into what we call corruption because there is no accountability. Because somebody can come in and begin to use money and begin to use time in any other issues that don't relate to what the organization said it will do. If the organization said it will do housing for people, for example, and then we find that then the organization is no longer doing housing for people, and the money that was supposed to go for housing for people is going to the pocket of the leader, then there is incongruency in terms of accountability there. So accountability then asks questions about the decisions that we take in terms of spending money and also spending time consistently with what we strategically said we will do as an organization. Actually, it's you who told us that you are going to do these things. It's you who wrote it down that you are going to do those things. But when you begin to depart from those things as a leader or as a leadership team and together with your followers, then you are shooting yourself on the hip. True accountability, ladies and gentlemen, is not just acknowledging and confronting behavior and performance and decisions, as I've already said. But true accountability is also about consequences, ramifications. Okay? You have held me accountable about money. You have held me accountable about money. You have held me accountable about the shortfall of my performance. You have held me accountable about my behavior and my choices. So what? What are the consequences? What are the ramifications? What will be done to that person that falls short of what has been documented as the code of conduct and as the principles and as the constitution of the organ? What will be done to that person? What are the consequences? And the consequences range from direct conversation. Like, let's sit down and directly discuss this issue and correct you. The next level will be course correction, to say we have talked to you and what are you going to course correct? What are you going to bring back? Are you going to pay back the money? Are you going to go back and apologize to the entire group of people? Are you going to go back to the community to apologize? Are you going to pay back the money? Are you going to, what are you going to do? What are the course correction measures? What are you going to do since we have talked? Because talking to you is one thing. But if, for example, you have abused a girl, say in church, or you abused a woman, say in church, what are you going to do with that person that is still affected by your actions? What are you going to do to that family? What are you going to do to that community? What are you going to do to that group of people that you told something and you did something different from them? And the last part of consequences is punitive action. It's punishment. What kind of punishment, what kind of discipline is going to be done to this person who is not following this particular code of conduct, this particular constitution, this particular written statement of the organization? What punishment is going to be done? If people know that there is no punishment, there is no corrective course, there is no discussion that is held, everyone will do whatever they want, despite the documents that are good and written down for the organization. Why? Because there is no accountability. Listen to this, ladies and gentlemen. Consequences are very, very critical in accountability. Without accountability and consequences, words are just words. Statements are just statements. Policies are just policies. documents are just documents. Actually, I would say you rather not do them. You rather not do them because they are just there to decorate the organization so that you feel good that you have ticked the boxes 1, 2, 3. You have these documents in place, but there is no accountability. There are no consequences, and the words on the paper are just words. So in an organization, people look at what is happening now. They don't look at what was supposed to happen. They don't look at what is written. They don't look at what is ahead. They don't look at what you call a vision. There are so many people that are obsessed with vision. And they shout vision, vision, vision every day and every time. I love vision. I want everybody to have a vision. Without vision, people perish. But if vision has no accountability, it is useless. If vision has no consequences of misaccountability or non-accountability, then that vision is going to be thrown in a dustbin one day. Because it's just a statement of the obvious, it's just a statement of making people happy, it's just a statement that does not go with accountability. So I've come to say this morning, your vision must be associated with accountability. Because people are looking at what is happening now, not what should be done in 5 years' time, or what should be done in 20 years' time, or in 100 years' time. I'm going to ask you a question here, and I would like you to answer me honestly. Does anyone get called out of order in your organization for not following those statements that you have put together? Does your leader himself, the toppest leader, get to be called to order when they don't follow the policies, the statements, the constitutions, the things that he himself put together? Or are these policies good when others do them, and when leaders don't do them, it's okay? When others don't do them, it's not okay? Are they discriminatory to say, the higher you go in the organizational structure, you can just break them as much as you can, and there are no accountability and consequences that align with them? I'm asking you a question. If you are going to answer me, I would be very happy about that. Are there any real consequences of falling short of the goals that are supposed to be done by an organization? The goals that must be achieved, if somebody does not achieve them or achieve some of them, are there any consequences? What are the boundaries that we learn through experience and not just from the written words? And I've come to say here, no matter how lofty, no matter how well-intentioned, no matter how brilliant the talk is, only accountability and consequences change the work. I've gone to conferences where people speak very well and people come out and say this conference was powerful. I think you have heard that. This conference was very powerful. And you ask them, what was powerful? They may narrate the words that were spoken, but that does not translate to any behavior change. 2 months down the line, the person that was saying the conference was powerful is still behaving the same, is still doing the same thing. So is powerful associated to words only, not the talk? That's why my topic says, watch the walk, never mind the talk. There are so many brilliant talkers out there. There are so many orators out there. They talk good, but the walk is different. People appreciate the talk, but they watch the walk. And that walk defines what people want to see. So we are looking for walking the talk and not just talk. Let me give you a second example as I come to a close. There's an organization where I used to work some time ago in KZN, and the head office was in Joburg. And there were orders that would come to say, on a quarterly basis or an annual basis or mid-year basis, you should make sure that as the leader you bring people to a conference, to an annual conference, so that they get taught, they get to be workshopped. And I would take these people to these workshops on an annual basis, and they would get there to listen to the presentations and talk. And when I go back to the program in KZN, I would say, can you tell me what you learned without looking at your notes? Can you just give me a summary of what you learned in the workshop? Since I took you to a workshop for 1 week, you were there in Joburg. Tell me, without opening your notes, what you learned in that workshop. I tell you, I would, in some cases, hear nothing. Somebody has been listening to words for the whole week, but they have nothing to say. I ended up saying to the Johannesburg people, I say, no, I'm not going to bring my people there to those workshops, because when they come back, they tell me nothing. And I discovered that the motivation was not going to the workshop so that people learn. The motivation was using an aeroplane from KZN to Johannesburg. And that's a good motivation. But it was not aligning with what the organization wants to do. There was no walk after the 1 week talk. Let me conclude and say, there are words that says action speaks louder than words. I love them. In isiZulu, they say umlomo awugcwalelwa mfula. In other words, words can cross the flooded river. And there is a school also where my brother used to learn, which had a logo which said, izenzo kungemazwi. We want actions, not words. From the biblical point of view, Hebrews chapter 13 verse 7 says, imitate the faith of your leaders. Imitate it, copy it. 2 Timothy chapter 3 verse 10 says, you followed my teaching, my conduct, my purpose, my faith, my patience, my love, and my perseverance. That's what Paul says. And 1 Corinthians chapter 11 verse 1 says, imitate me as I imitate Christ. So don't tell us to just read the words. We want to follow the walk. We want to follow your actions. And that's what leadership is. We need the walk more than the talk. May God bless you as we conclude this session. Please follow my YouTube channel, my Facebook page, my online platforms, and let's continue to talk about these things, because we are doing leadership lessons with Dr. Stanley. God bless you.